All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on What the Sheet. And in today's episode, we're going to be making another garbage cabinet, very similar to the one that I made for my mom in previous videos. And the only real difference between this one and the one I made for my mom is the sizing. I think on this one is a little bit different, which isn't that big of a big deal. And the cabinet door and I did some face trim on this one. So on the front side, when you pull open the drawer, I actually put some trim on the edge of that plywood there, so you don't actually see the end grain of the plywood like you would on my mom's. And then with the door, I bought a pre-made cabinet door from Menards, and then I cut it in half to shrink the width down to fit the actual width that I needed for this cabinet, which was, I think it was like 19 inches wide. And so at the end, you'll see the cabinet door. There's a little bit of a line underneath the handle, and that's where I cut the door in half and squeezed it together to make it fit the width. But other than that, it's identical, very simple cabinetry basics here. And like right here, I'm just trimming those two halves, or the two sides of the cabinet to match the same depth. That way when it pushes up against the wall, it's not sitting at an angle or anything like that. And then these strips that I just cut are going to be for the spreaders that spread out the two halves, or the two pieces, to give me my proper width, which is, like I said, it's 20 inches, I do believe, from outside to outside, or 21 inches, somewhere in that range. And I'm using pocket holes on this just to make it easier, and that way there's no screws on the outside edges of the plywood. And then what I'm attaching here is the top, which would be the top of the cabinet, so where the countertop will sit. And I'm going to put the pocket holes facing up and out. That way, once the countertop sits down on top and you look inside the cabinet itself, you shouldn't see any screws or any holes or anything like that, except for where the rails are, which is something that I can't hide. And this kind of serves a dual purpose where it helps support the sides of the cabinet to keep it nice and sturdy, but then it also acts as a surface to screw the new countertop to. And then this other piece is an extra spacer for the back side that'll help keep the back nice and square and act as a surface to put the kind of that base piece for what we consider the floor of the cabinet. Nothing's going to actually go on the floor of the cabinet. It's just there to kind of finish off the cabinet to make it more traditional. So as you can see now, it looks like what you would typically see in your kitchen or your bathroom or something like that. I do end up having to add two spacers that I use to attach this to the wall, just because since it is a garbage cabinet and those bins come all the way out when they're fully loaded, I don't want this to risk tipping forward. And then on top of that, this is at the end of the cabinet space, so this needs to support all of the countertop on top of that. So I want to make sure this is nice and locked in and solid. And right here, I'm getting that face trim piece ready. It's a 1.5 by 1/2 inch thick oak strip. And I'm just cutting these to length from top to bottom, and then I'll cut two spacers that go in between, similar to a picture frame or a regular door frame, something like that. And I end up using dowels to join the pieces together, just because it helps get you a nice square edge, and so you don't have to worry about it racking or anything like that. And some of the issues you run into if you're doing something like pocket holes is when you're screwing the two pieces together, pocket hole screws tend to pull your pieces off by just a touch. Even with a clamp on, sometimes it'll still pull. And then another problem that I've run into a little bit is using thinner material, like 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch material. Sometimes if you over tighten that pocket hole screw, it'll blow out the other side. And I didn't want that to happen with these, so I just decided to use 2 dowels in each piece and a little bit of glue to kind of hold it all together. And then once it's all finished, I'd come through and I just pin nail it to the face frame, or the face of the cabinet itself. And pin nails are actually surprisingly really good at holding things in place. If you, I'm trying to remember if I put that video up. Yes, I did. So the video of me making the TV stand, which was like 2 or 3 videos ago, I actually pin nailed the base piece down when I was drilling the holes for it. And when I went to go pull it off, I actually had to go get a chisel to break it free from the top, just because of how strong those pins were holding. And there was only like 6 or 8 pins holding that down. So with this, I put probably a good dozen or 2 dozen pins all the way around that face frame to hold it in place. So, you know, somebody bumping into it or anything like that, it's not gonna affect that, or it shouldn't affect that. And if it does pop off, I could always come back to the customer's house and reattach it, no problem. So right here, these are the spacers that bring the sidewall out on the base. So that way when I attach the rails, or the drawer slides for the actual drawer base that holds the garbage bins, they're not going to catch on that face frame. And then I measuring out the base here that's going to actually hold the 2 bins. And I think these were 11-gallon garbage bins. So they're a little bit smaller than maybe typical garbage bins, but plenty big enough for standard kitchen use. And I think the customer said that they're going to have 1 for garbage, 1 for recycling, which is typically what a lot of people do. Or if you're having a party, something like that, you could use them both for garbage, so you don't have to take it out, you know, super often. And right here, I'm just marking out all the lengths for the edges, and then there's 6 pieces there, so 4 of them are going to be for the drawer base, to kind of trim it out like a box, and then the other 2 are going to be angle pieces that'll help spread the load on the door to the drawer, just because of the way the doors are constructed and the amount of force that you're going to have opening and closing these garbage bins. I wanted to have some of that force being directed away from the base of the door handle and kind of spread it out a little bit. And as I typically do when I make my drawers, I pin it all together first and then come back through and screw it down to actually secure it. And same with the base. I pin it in place. That way if I need to make any adjustments, I can easily do that. And then once it's all in a spot where I like it, I come back through, countersink my holes, and then put in my 1-inch screws. So as you can see here, this is what I'm talking about with that angle piece. So that piece of oak right there is acting as my mock-up door. And then I'm putting pocket holes on the same side, and I have my pocket holes on the inside because I actually go through and I paint the whole drawer base completely black, and that way when the bins are in there, you almost don't even notice what it's sitting on. So as you can see here, as I open this up, you barely even notice what these bins are sitting in. You can kind of see the supports there on the door. So there's the 2 11-gallon bins. This one's, I think, a little bit sturdier than my mom's, because as you can see, it's not tipping over with the door fully open. And then you can kind of see just a little bit that seam where the 2 halves of the door came together. And then there's the drawer slides. These are soft close drawers. And yeah, that's about it. This took me, I want to say, like 3, maybe 4 hours in the shop, all said. Cutting everything, making the adjustments to the door, and doing some light sanding to get the surfaces finished to a nice solid finish. But that's all I got for you guys in today's video. If you have any questions, want me to go over anything that I maybe skipped over in this video, just let me know, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.